Ooh, ah, look, a box. So full disclosure, I'm not getting paid anything, but I do get to keep this, and I haven't paid anything for it. So just so you know, that, and then the link for this in the description is also an affiliate link. So let me get it opened up and show you what I'm going to be doing with it. And what I'm going to be doing with it is replacing this little guy. If you've been watching for years, you'll recognize this. I put this in, gosh, I don't know, at least 3 years ago. 40 amps, really, really nice little unit. There's nothing wrong with it. I use it almost every day. It's fantastic. But I will say it has an 18.6 foot cord from the bottom of this little gland here to the end of the J1772 connector. And the Shockflo has a 20 foot cord. And in the middle of winter, when there's huge snow berms right here, it's actually very, very difficult to connect it to the vehicle. So I'm going to be comparing kind of along the way this EVSE with the other as well. But let me get in here, shut off the breaker, unplug this 1450, which luckily the new unit uses the exact same connector. I'll get that dismounted from the wall, and we'll get this Shockflo unboxed, put in, and see what's what. So here we have it unboxed. I did take the wall plate off of it. There's one Phillips screw at the bottom of the unit, and then the entire plate comes down and slides off. It's cool. There's a big safety button on the circuit breaker, which is actually awesome to see. And then there's also a built-in cable holster for the J1772, which is fantastic. I will say this is a 40 amp unit, and all of the cabling is clearly up to the 48 volt task. The lead wire is 8 gauge with a 10 gauge ground, and this little guy I'll have to take a look at in just a moment and tell you what we're working with. But wow, yeah, I think they probably use the exact same cords for the 48 amp version of this exact same EVSE. All right, so there we can see it. It's actually 9 gauge wire, but it's high temperature 105C 600 volts. So this I do think is probably good enough for 48 amps as well, but it is a great plenty for 40. The only other thing I will say, I'll have to get the measuring tape, but I don't think the 20 foot cord is as advertised. I do believe that they're probably using all of the footage of the cord coming into and out of the EVSE. So we'll take a look at that real quick. I will open up the RFID cards, the instructions, and I probably won't be using those anchors because I'm not using a CMU wall. Just reading through the manual again now. Quite a bit of information. It's actually full color, so quite a bit nicer than the manual I got with the 15 amp version of the portable. However, it does say, instead of do not use in hauling or binding, now it's hauling or bundling. So definitely do not use for any other occasions, including hauling or bundling. Do not use with extension cords. I'm not even sure if those exist. Well, I suppose they do, right, for RVs? And that's the end of the first booklet. I was asked to check out the app, so I will be doing that too. But before we get to that, and the RFID cards, I do want to say I've set the tape measure as close to 0 as I can on these, and it looks like we have roughly 18 inches of lead cord, and we only have 16 feet 5 inches on the main lead, which is very short. For installation in a home garage, that's probably just fine. However, that means I won't be installing it right here. It means I'll be installing it in my other garage. So let me remount back up the 19'7" 40 amp EVSE that I've had for a couple of years, and let's run down and install that one in the new location. Et voila! This is where I will be installing it. Well, I've got her installed, and I'm greeted with 7 blinky red lights. I was just in the manual, so let me go back and see what that means. Handy dandy, emergency stop. And wouldn't you know, nice blue light. So let me get the app going here, and let's see what that looks like. It me, voiceover man. So here I have the App Store install page for the Shockflo app. I'm just gonna go ahead and get this installed on my phone. I thought it was funny. It said it was for ages 4+, but Once you open the app, you just hit the plus and it immediately uses Bluetooth to detect the EVSE. You can key in your Wi-Fi information. It does have to be 2.4 gigahertz, but it does seem to work okay with a merged SSID. And here you can see, just paging through the app, all of the features within. I can't find a schedule option, unfortunately, but you can, rename your account, rename the EVSE, check charge stats. If you turn off plug and play, the machine will require the RFID card before turning on the charge, which is kind of clever. If you had this thing out and about where somebody else could physically plug into it and you didn't want them to, those cards are actually really handy. And I do like the fact that you can disable it. And out of the box, you don't need the app. You could literally just plug it into the wall, flip the breaker, and use it as a 40 amp EVSE. Use your car's charge scheduling, which is probably what I would recommend anyway, because some of the functionality in this app either doesn't exist yet, doesn't work super duper great, but I'll cover that in just a second. I just wanted to give you kind of a main overview of what the app looks like first. Okay, so what we saw in the app there, pretty basic, but it does seem to have some interesting functionality. I'm curious about the power bill. It keeps track of how many kilowatt hours, but I'm not sure if you can actually key in your electrical rate. Scheduling the charge is also something that I didn't see immediately in that app. I think that might be once you've plugged in the vehicle to the actual EVSE, but it did register without any fault. I have a mixed 2.4/5 gigahertz SSID here, and it didn't kick up any fuss. And then you saw a toggle in the software called plug and play. So what that means is you take this out of the actual shoe, plug it into your EV, and it goes. If you turn that off, you would need one of the two, where did they go, RFID cards. One of these two guys, and you would have to actually authenticate it with the EVSE before you're allowed to charge. So if you had one of these in like a shared garage or something like that, and you didn't want somebody to come and plug in while you're away, or if you had it even outside in a relatively urban environment like my own home, it's entirely possible for somebody to, waltz up there, plug in, and steal power, and I wouldn't necessarily know. So I like the fact that it's optional. I have an older 32 amp portable EVSE that I bought years ago for my Fiat 500 electric, and that one requires RFID no matter what to start it up, and the tags are easy to lose. So overall, build quality is really good. I'm not going to finish out this video until I get my car down here to actually charge it. I'm driving a combustion vehicle today, so that will have to wait, but it looks very nice on the wall. At least the app installed all right. The cords are insanely thick. However, I will say I'm very disappointed about the length of the cord. So here it'll work fine because you can tell the outside's right there. But my other location, I really do think 20 feet from the unit itself is a minimum. I really would love to see 22 to 25 feet, but I am fully aware that cords are very, very expensive, and this unit appears to be insanely overbuilt for 40 amps. So it is what it is. We'll come back to it when I have the car. I'll try it out with some in-app functionality. The life of an EV owner. Of course, it's tied in a knot. This is the issue with a 17-foot cord. Okay, it does have a really nice gasket. That actually took a fair bit to click that in. Let's get it charging, make sure it does 40 amps, and we'll see what the statistics look like on the actual app. We are now flashing green instead of flashing blue, so good. So back in the app once again, flipping back and forth between the Tesla app, which I do trust, and this app, which I don't. If you go into the charge stats, it shows that I've used 2,168 kilowatt hours, and I've put maybe a total of 30 kilowatt hours into the car with this since new. So the metrics aren't quite right.